For most of my life, Central City has been plagued with violence, or at least that's what we've always been told. We've been taught that this area is dangerous, that it's high crime, but what they'll never tell you is that one of the worst crimes in this neighborhood's history wasn't committed by so-called criminals. It was committed by white mobs, police, and city officials in 1900. And this historical marker tells just a piece of that story. You're looking at the site of one of the most brutal racial terror attacks in Louisiana history, the mass lynching of 1900. Let's talk about Robert Charles. He wasn't just some man caught up in the wrong situation. He was a self-educated, articulate black activist who had recently moved to New Orleans from Mississippi. He believed in black self-defense, something radical at the time, and even encouraged African Americans to consider immigrating to Liberia to escape racial discrimination in the U.S. He was bold, outspoken, and unafraid to challenge the status quo, which made him a threat. If you know the neighborhood, take a look around. That tall gray building, that's the Gus High Rise, where seniors still live today. And the empty lot across from the back of what's now Central City Barbecue, that's the very place where Robert Charles was found. He was cornered there on July 27, 1900, after days of being hunted. But he didn't go quietly. He held off a heavily armed mob and police force in a deadly standoff, taking several down with him. When they finally killed him, it didn't end there. His body was mutilated in the street, desecrated and dragged as white mobs celebrated. And instead of being given any dignity in death, he was buried in a potter's field, an unmarked grave meant for the forgotten. But the violence didn't stop with him. White mobs, emboldened and unchecked, terrorized the black community. They lynched innocent black people at random, burned homes, looted businesses, and targeted symbols of progress and pride. One of the most devastating acts was the burning of Tommy LaFawn School, a large wooden schoolhouse located on Howard Street between Harmony and 7th. Completed just 3 years earlier in 1897, the school had been a cornerstone of black education in New Orleans. Its principal, Sylvanie F. Williams, was a nationally respected writer and educator. The school sat in what would later become the Magnolia Projects, serving nearly 947 black children. Its destruction wasn't just physical, it was psychological and systemic. In the aftermath, despite protests from black parents and activists, the Orleans Parish School Board shut down public education for black students beyond the 5th grade. That meant there was no access to public high schools for African American children in New Orleans until 1917. Let that sink in. An entire generation of black students were denied education because of racist retaliation. Just 2 blocks from here stands St. Joseph the Worker Catholic Church, located on Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard. That church has stood through it all, witnessing both the pain and the power of this community. And what might surprise some is how close this all happened to a place we all know, just a quarter mile from the iconic St. Charles Avenue. The same St. Charles where we ride streetcars, watch parades, and marvel at the historic homes. Meanwhile, just steps away, this neighborhood was soaked in violence and erased from the story. This marker doesn't just tell the story of Robert Charles. It tells the story of what happens when a city turns its back on justice, when truth gets buried alongside the bodies. They're trying to erase these stories. They're trying to erase our history. But it's our job to keep it alive. Remember to like, share, and follow me for more stories that they won't put in your textbooks. Thanks for watching.